A quarter of a century on and a touching tribute to those lost in the Ash Wednesday disaster.
Georgina McGuinness.
South Australia has paused to remember one of our darkest chapters, today marking the 25th anniversary of the Ash Wednesday bushfires. While authorities say we have learned valuable lessons, the threat remains very real.
Ash and embers choked the Adelaide hills. The day was February the 16th, 1983. The flames tore through more than 200,000 hectares with frightening speed, razing 383 homes. 14 lives were lost in the Adelaide hills, 14 more in the state's southeast. Those who survived will never forget.
Well, I didn't think I was going to survive at all, so it was extremely close.
Does it feel like 25 years ago?
No, it only feels like yesterday, really.
Today, hundreds gathered at the Mt Lofty Botanic Gardens, where there was once a deafening roar of flames, today a moment's silence before water bombers flew overhead as a mark of respect. Among those paying tribute, the Premier at the time, Dr John Bannon.
Its impact obviously reverberated well on past the time as we picked up the pieces and got things reorganised. So I think it's important that we keep alive those memories.
25 years on, the risk is greater than ever. The state is in the grip of another drought, and changing weather patterns are prolonging the bushfire seasons and producing more frequent days of extreme fire danger. A fire at Belair today was quickly contained, but our vulnerability was recently highlighted during the fatal Black Tuesday bushfire.
We've had a generation who have experienced the pain and suffering and the loss of Ash Wednesday bushfires. We need to pass on the lessons that we've learned to our children and our children's children.
Jennifer Bennett, National 9 News.
Good evening, Michael Smith in Adelaide with ABC News. Memorial services have been held across South Australia today to mark the 25th anniversary of the Ash Wednesday bushfires. On this day in 1983, more than 100 fires swept across our state and Victoria, killing 75 people and destroying more than 2,000 properties.
After a quarter of a century, these images are difficult to forget. Nearly 10,000 firefighters battled fires in both states, the flames fuelled by dry conditions, searing heat and strong, ever-changing winds.
It was a situation where you just didn't have enough arms and legs to go where the next job was. There was just so much to do. We were restricted to only 2 fire appliances in the whole of Yarrabee Road.
The fires devastated South Australia, killing 28 people, hundreds of animals and destroying more than 300 homes, including Diane de Torres on Yarrabee Road.
It's a bit surreal at the time. You feel like you're in a bit of a nightmare. It really only hits you after the event, and it's all the years afterwards trying to put it all back together and all the emotional turmoil and looking after kids that have got problems and stuff like that.
Today, in the same place where there had been an inferno a quarter of a century ago, there was a minute's silence. Victims were remembered as their names were read, including 3 volunteer firefighters who gave the ultimate sacrifice.
When nature unleashes its full fury, the power of mankind is really pretty feeble, and it's a very humbling realisation. Certainly you give thanks for being able to get through an event like that.
Some survivors chose not to attend the service, saying they remember their experience every day.
There were people around here that died. There were neighbours on this side that died, and neighbours couple down that died and things like that. So you've always got to look. The positive thing is that we all survived it. We got out.
The CFS says another Ash Wednesday is not out of the question.
We have improved so much since Ash Wednesday, but the risk is still there. We could face Ash Wednesday-like conditions again.
He says today's anniversary should serve as a reminder to people living in high-risk areas to be prepared and to have their action plans ready. Lisa Maximovic, ABC News, Adelaide.
25 years on, survivors of the Ash Wednesday bushfires have been warned history could be repeated. The Premier blamed the drought and climate change for increasing fire danger during a moving commemorative ceremony at Mt Lofty.
On February 16, 1983, these people were swept up in a disaster beyond their control. The Ash Wednesday bushfires claimed 28 lives and destroyed 380 homes. And today some of the survivors came back to Mt Lofty to recall what happened on that dreadful day.
The smoke of the raging inferno will wrap all the day in its shroud. The sky is red and then white. It's going crazy. The fire's jumped 150 feet high, straight over the top of Green Hill Road.
The whole scrub just went up in front and I just got in the car and went.
Hundreds of new residents have made their homes in the Adelaide Hills since Ash Wednesday, and many of them are not putting enough effort into protecting themselves and their properties.
There are now too many unprepared houses in undefendable locations.
Despite all the warnings and precautions, no one can say that Ash Wednesday will not happen again. In fact, because of the changing weather patterns, the risk factors are getting worse.
We know just how quickly and savagely nature can turn against us.
All we need is that frightful combination of wind and temperature and an ignition source, and we could see potentially another Ash Wednesday in the future.
I'm watching my house burn down. The roof is falling in. It's in flames, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Chris Warren, 7 News.
A sombre ceremony has wrapped up on Mt Lofty, marking the 25th anniversary of the Ash Wednesday bushfire disaster, and those caught in the inferno emotionally recall the events. But there are concerns today that others are failing to heed the warnings of history. Reporter Kate Freeburn is at the summit.
This time 25 years ago, fire roared over Mt Lofty summit, destroying all in its path. By day's end, fires here and at Yarrabee Road at Greenhill, McLaren Flat, Clare and of course in the southeast had claimed 28 lives and destroyed more than 300 homes. The Ash Wednesday disaster in 1983 has scorched a place in South Australian history. Today it was commemorated near the summit at the Mt Lofty Botanic Gardens, drawing together those who fought the blaze 25 years ago and those who lost everything.
The flames went over us and then everything went black. You couldn't see. And then everything went orange. And the roar, it's just like standing in the back of a jet aircraft.
It was just horrendous. I mean, some places that we took people from, the houses were still there, some weren't. Some came back to a house, some came back to a pile of ashes.
But many have failed to learn the lesson of that day. The CFS is concerned most are ill-prepared for fire, reminding simple bushfire action plans will ensure the state doesn't relive the nightmare of 1983.